Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Reyes Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Matthew Moreno, here to talk about the Dodgers falling to the Phillies 9-4, losing this series. The divisional lead, Matt, is down to 3 games. It's a tough one. We're going to get into a devastating call. We're going to get into some more Gavin Stone struggles, some more bullpen struggles. But this felt like an opportunity for the Dodgers to maybe build a little momentum, take 2 out of 3 from the Phillies. And for a while tonight, it looked like that might be exactly what happens. But things turned in the 5th and 6th inning. Dodgers give up 8 runs in the final 5 innings of this one.
Yeah, if you look at the final score, and it's easy to forget that the Dodgers led 4-1 at one point in this game. And, Kyle Schwarber just went absolutely crazy, and he hit his first home run. They're saying, back-to-back games with a home run or whatever it was. And I was like, okay. And then he hit another one, and I was like, well, fine. Like, he's having a nice game. But I've seen Christian Walker wreck the Dodgers. This is nothing. And then, of course, Schwarber comes up and just hits another one. I mean, there's a lot to sort of not necessarily take away, but kind of dissect with tonight's loss. And I know we're going to get into a lot of the big things kind of individually, but I've seen the chat already as we had the stream up a few minutes before we jumped in. People are upset. People are concerned. And I get it. I still think that there is one kind of big carrot at the end of the tunnel for the Dodgers, which, I know we'll get into.
Yeah, lots to talk about. As always, we appreciate the folks joining us live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Let's jump straight, Matt, to the biggest call of the game, the biggest moment of the game. It's the top of the 5th inning. The Dodgers are up 4-1. Gavin Stone, after giving a leadoff home run up to Kyle Schwarber, seems to have settled in a little bit. Castellanos doubles to lead off the inning. Bryson Stott strikes out with so with the runner at second base and 1 out, you have Rojas up. He grounds to Kike Hernandez, who fumbles the ball, throws to Rojas, who easily applies the tag ahead. And there's a weird moment with the umpire at third because he throws his hands up and he starts pointing, and nobody knows, like, did he call out? Did he call safe? It definitely looked like he was out. And then it's made clear that he calls interference. Now, this is a big moment for a lot of reasons, but to boil it down, basically it's the difference between first and third with 1 out or a runner on first with 2 outs. The call was a terrible one. It's not reviewable. Rojas, who's a pretty mild-mannered guy, it seems like most of the time, was not happy about it, clearly agitated. Dave Roberts comes out. The third base umpire basically says, Hunter Wendelstedt, hey, you can't argue. You can't argue. Stop. Dave, rightfully so, gets in his grill, tells him what an idiot he is. And this ends up being sort of the first crack in the armor for the Dodgers. Kyle Schwarber doubles to cut the lead to 4-3. And that's a big moment in this game for the Dodgers. Because all of a sudden, excuse me, I screwed this up. This was the 6th inning. It was Alec Boehm doubling. The 5th and 6th looked the same. 6th inning, Alec Boehm doubles. Marsh grounds into the fielder's choice, and Boehm is safe at third on interference. So again, it's the difference between a runner at first and 1 out or a runner at first and third with nobody outs. That's the inning that the Phillies end up going on to score 5 runs and making this an 8-4 game. So apologies on the mistake there, but it's a huge call and a terrible call nonetheless.
Yeah, this is one. I mean, look, the obstruction, the interference, all that stuff. Like, I know, like, MLB has implemented it. Sometimes it's been enforced. I don't think it's consistently been enforced the same way, and that's an issue. One issue with it. I think the other is, I don't know. Like, I get, like, it's a rule, so that you can't necessarily say, like, hey, there needs to be some nuance. But really, like, on a play like this, like, Rojas clearly is just running, like, he didn't go out of his way, like in the NBA, right, where guys are hunting fouls. Like, you can clearly tell by their body language they're trying to get the referee to call a foul. Rojas wasn't, like, trying to block the base runner's path by any means. It was a bang play. He took a natural route. Like, I think you need to have some feel for it if it's possible. And I know that MLB would probably argue, it's a rule and this and that. And I mean, fine, but also I would push back by saying I don't think that it's been enforced consistently throughout baseball. And I'm pretty much basing it off of watching just a lot of Dodger games. If I were to spend, a lot more time checking in on other teams every single day, I'm sure that there would be more inconsistencies that I could reference right now. And I think so. You make the call, fine, whatever. Then to tell Dave Roberts, like, no, don't come out here, don't argue this and that. Like, let him get there. Explain to him, look, this is the call I made. You can't like. There's not.
Yeah.
You can argue, but we can't do anything about it. So, like, please stop. Go back to the dugout. And if he keeps pushing the envelope at that point, then eject him. But to give him such a quick hook was of all kind of situations where Dave, I thought, should have been ejected. Like, this wasn't necessarily one. Like, I was kind of surprised because they weren't showing him at first when they said Dave Roberts has been ejected. I think they're showing the replay. So I was like, oh, like, what happened? And then you see kind of how it unfolded. Just like, come on.
Yeah. And there's two things here. The first is if you're going to be able to review anything, and the Phillies reviewed 3 plays in this game and got all 3 of them overturned, rightfully so. But the thing to me that's dumb is like why some things are reviewable and some things aren't reviewable. Anybody who watched one replay, this umpire, if he goes in and watches one replay, is going to know he screwed it up. To your point, Rojas doesn't go out of his way to block the bag. If anything, if you watch the trajectory of the foot that makes contact with Rojas, that foot ain't touching the bag. That foot is missing the bag by about 5 inches to the right. So that's one thing. But then if you just watch how the inning unfolds, I know people are saying, hey, the umpire isn't the guy who gave the home run up to Schwarber, but just pay attention to how this unfolds. So you have the leadoff double, then you've got the ground out. If the call is called correctly, all of a sudden you've got a runner on first with 1 out. Okay, the next batter grounds out to third, and we could do this whole thing of everything's changed, but just go with me here. The next batter grounds out to third. So now you got 2 outs. Best case scenario, maybe a runner at second base if you're the Phillies, and it's still 4-3 Dodgers. Then you've got to walk runners at first and second with 2 outs, and then Bryson Stott flies out, and the inning's over. And it's 4-3 Dodgers. Instead, because of that, there's no out. He scores on the ground out, and then they get 1 extra out, which leads to a wild pitch by Joe Kelly, 5-4, and a Kyle Schwarber homer that makes it 8-4. And all of a sudden, the game is entirely changed. Like I said last night, I came on here and kind of defended the decision of Dave Roberts to let Honeywell just wear that because they were down 4-2. That was a situation where the Dodgers were already losing. And in order for that decision to be bad, the Dodgers offense was going to need to muster something against the Phillies bullpen to threaten. They didn't even come close. So I thought it was defensible. I'm complaining here because the Dodgers were literally winning the game when this call happened. And because of it, directly because of it, they end up losing. I'm not saying it's the only reason they lost. I'm just saying it's an atrocious call and it cost them dearly tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And I know, like, Dave Roberts is in his postgame. I think, some quotes are coming out. He's saying he missed the call. Like, and yeah, I mean, I think letter of the rule, it was probably like correct.
Yeah.
But again, like baseball, like, especially with, like, you're not going to necessarily win that argument with me. Like, I push back on, this concept of, analytics. And, I jokingly say, they're letting a computer run the front office and stuff, like, not the Dodgers specifically.
Yeah, this is your eye test right here, Matt. This is old school baseball the way you want it. Exactly. This call not reviewed.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, but there needs to be some understanding for the sport. I mean, look, like, we review the, runners sliding into second base. If you pop up off the bag for a split second and the tag is on you, now you're out, right? And so, like, it's just, I don't know. Baseball, as much as they've advanced in some areas, like, they still, I think, get bogged down with and I know replay doesn't apply to this specific play, but replays kind of in general can be a little bit of a hindrance to the whole pace of play initiatives, which are just kind of ironic.
Yeah. And from this point forward, if the Dodgers were to have left that inning 4-3, the Phillies did score 1 run. That was the Schwarber home run in the top of the 9th. So outside of that, the 5 runs that were a direct result of that missed call, the Dodgers lose this game by 5 runs. So do the math on that one. Let's get to a couple super chats and we'll talk Gavin Stone, the Dodgers offense, the Dodgers bullpen. 300 GJW with both of these. We appreciate the 2 super chats. Thank you so much. This is a bad team, bad hustle, can't hit for long stretches, can't pitch past the 5th innings. Phillies thoroughly manhandled us this season on. Look, if the team that we saw tonight, Matt, was the 2024 Dodgers at their best, I would agree with everything in this statement. The problem is, the reason I disagree, I should say, is because this wasn't likely a pitcher we're going to see in the postseason the way things are trending. There were likely 4 to 5 guys in this lineup that we might not see, at least not as high in the order as they would be in the postseason. And so, again, if we were watching the best the Dodgers had to offer tonight, I would agree. But I think that's the reason for hope, the reason for optimism is that this isn't the team that's going to be hopefully competing for a World Series.
Yeah, that's the big carrot I mentioned that in our opening of look, I get the Dodgers have been pretty bad for a long stretch. You know, they came out of the All-Star break on a 5-game winning streak, but that kind of has proven to be a little bit of a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
But yes, look, it's not an excuse, and I know we get accused of making excuses for the team, and this I'm not trying to make an excuse. If any, it's just a simple fact that you take somebody of Mookie Betts' caliber off any team, that's a significant loss.
Yeah.
You take a pitcher of Yoshinobu Yamamoto's caliber out of any rotation, that's a significant loss.
Yeah.
Max Muncy, even with his ups and downs, like even if you do think he's a boom or bust player, he does go boom about 30 something times a year. That's a significant loss. Am I missing anybody? I mean, I know injury, like guys have been in and out, but for the most part, like some players have come back. You know, Brusdar Graterol, which his season, like it looked like his.
We're gonna get to that. That is its own bizarre story of the day to get to.
Yeah, but and you know, Ryan Brazier, Michael Grove just came back, stuff like that. Like, I get the concern, but like the Dodgers do still have reason to be hopeful. If you don't want to say optimistic, hopeful because of the players that are coming back.
Yeah, and I see people commenting, hey, the Padres are missing Musgrove, they're missing Darvish, they're missing Tatis. The Dodgers are ahead of the Padres right now. Like yes, both these teams are missing players, and the Dodgers are ahead of them. So we can't have it both ways. Like we can't point to them and say they've been better over the last 2 weeks. That's fine. You don't get a medal for being better over the last 2 weeks. The Dodgers are a mess right now. We can all agree on that. They have a 3-game lead in the division still. That number might continue to shrink. I even said the next couple weeks are going to be brutal until they get these guys back. I said before the game, look, the lineup tonight had Kike Hernandez hitting fourth. You can love the stretch that Kike Hernandez has been on since the All-Star break and like 50 at-bats. Him hitting fourth is pathetic. Gavin Lux hitting fifth. Gavin Lux has been great. So I think he's maybe the one guy I don't have a ton of issue with. Miguel Rojas, first game back. We know the historic track record. He's batting sixth. Hayward, Barnes, Kiermaier. I mean, this lineup wasn't a serious lineup. And I don't mean that in the sense that they could have done a whole lot better because of the guys that were available to them. But when you throw that lineup out, you throw a starting pitcher in Gavin Stone, who has like an 8 ERA over his last 6 starts with 9 home runs allowed. Compared to the expectations, they were one bad call away from being right there with the Phillies team that, you know, has been a mess lately, but is also still very good and ahead of the Dodgers. So, I mean, this is a mess. The Dodgers are a mess. My only reason for optimism is not because I'm looking at this group and saying Kiermaier's going to improve. Kike's going to improve. I'm not saying that. I'm saying Mookie Betts is going to be an upgrade. Max Muncy's going to be an upgrade. Tommy Edman's going to be an upgrade. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to be an upgrade, right? Like the guys that are coming back are going to be upgrades of the guys that are in there. And this is a close game, if not for one bad call.
Yeah, definitely. And again, like I'm seeing all the like people aren't necessarily buying it. I get it. Like if you want to be skeptical, like that's fine. I just think that yes, like Mookie Betts is a perennial all-star, one of the best players in baseball. So to say, like, to believe he can make an impact, he can be, you know, he can help the team more so than, no slight to Miguel Rojas, to Nick Amed, who have filled in, but he's clearly an upgrade above those guys. And so to believe that, I don't think is a significant stretch of the imagination by any means.
Yeah, 300 with another super chat here. On top of that, you let them hit Lux and don't answer. That was the most bizarre thing, maybe, of this entire game. Michael Grove's in, Castellanos up. Castellanos takes a 1-2 pitch up and in that hits him. He freaks out, starts barking at Michael Grove, which it's like, A, to believe that you personally are important enough to get hit in that situation. B, to not be smart enough to realize the guy on the mound is first appearance back off the injured list. They're down by 4. It's a 1-2 count. And you think he's like intentionally hitting you. It was beyond bizarre. So he's barking. Barnes gets in the middle. Things settle down. Gavin Lux takes a fastball off the shoulder next. Like, what did you make of that? Did you think the pitch on Lux was intentional?
Yes. I think, like, if maybe semi-intentional, it was one of those, I'm going to throw inside, and if it hits him, it hits him.
Yeah.
The Castellanos one, it wasn't like, it was high, but it wasn't like head level. It definitely, you know, went below his neck, I would say. And again, like, it was not intentional by any means. But yeah, I mean, I think, look, I get the sentiment of, hey, like, they retaliate against Gavin Lux. Now you need to retaliate against one of them. Like, I can understand the fans wanting an eye for an eye in that sense, but had the Dodgers hit somebody then in what that would have been the ninth inning, I think, right?
Yeah.
Nothing good would have come of that, unfortunately. Like benches would have cleared. There might have been suspensions at that point, and then like it
Yeah.
just
You want less of the good players playing in these games?
yeah. So like nothing good would have come of that.
Yeah. Look, I think you're right. Like the hit of Gavin Lux, sure. I mean, the Dodgers had already hit their guy, and again, Michael Grove just isn't that guy. If Joe Kelly's on the mound, like sure, we could probably pick a couple guys on the Dodgers that would go get their pound of flesh, right? Like if anybody saw the interview we had with Eric Gagne, what I loved is the story he told about Michael Tucker when he hits Michael Tucker, throws inside, takes off his glove, and basically says, "Come on out, let's fight." Is he actually tells the story on our podcast that he wasn't supposed to pitch that day, but Tucker basically has a play at first that's a close play with Jeff Weaver. And Tucker, he thinks, goes out of his way basically to try and step on the ankle of Jeff Weaver in Gagne's opinion. And so Gagne, on an off day, goes to the manager and says, "Hey, I want an inning today." And they're like, "You're off day." He's like, No, I want an inning. So then he comes in, throws at Michael Tucker, tries to get in a fight. So like Gagne's a hockey player. Okay. Gagne's like that dude. He's the guy who wants to fight. He's the guy that's threatening. Michael Grove wasn't going to be that dude. And knowing Dave Roberts and the Dodgers, they didn't want him to be that dude. So I understand the frustration. It was a brutal game all around. But I wasn't surprised necessarily to see how that played out. Jonathan with another super chat here. Phillies last 2 series wins, Dodgers and now ... Dodgers a month ago. Painful, but we're if we start our annual 50 and 5 runs soon, we're champs. What do you think, Matt? Mookie and Muncy come back and the Dodgers win 80% of their games?
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that something like that happened.
Yeah.
Maybe they get Yamamoto back at some point. Walker Buehler's coming back. Bobby Miller maybe shortly behind him. I'll make of that what you will.
Walker Buehler, Bobby Miller, we're including them on the list of guys coming back.
I mean, technically they are on the list of guys coming back, so I needed to mention them, and how people took that information is going to be on them. I mean, look, again, like the Dodgers that played the Phillies last month and the Dodgers that played the Phillies this week, like, are not the team that they're anticipating having come the playoffs. And so it doesn't, the playoffs can roll around. And if the Phillies and Dodgers end up matching up and the Phillies win, I don't think it's not going to be, like it's an extension of the regular season, because they were just completely, hopefully, knock on wood, if you're the Dodgers, like it was a completely different roster. It'll just be, hey, Phillies were the better team right now. Yeah. And I know that that's not a popular opinion, but I mean, it's just kind of a reality that the Dodgers are sort of living in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Gabriel Fernandez with the super chat as well. Dumbest call at third I've seen. We agree with you. We agree. I thought it was costly. I understand why there are people that are hesitant to say one individual call changing a 9-inning game. But again, that particular inning, they give up 5 runs, and 4 of those runs come with 2 outs, in which the third out should have already been recorded, and the 5th run scored because the guy was called safe at third. So these are direct results, A plus B equals C type stuff. Getting back to this one, Matt, I do want to talk a little bit about Gavin Stone. 4 2/3, 6 hits, 3 earned, 1 walk, just 2 strikeouts for him. If you go a little bit deeper into the numbers, just 6 whiffs on 37 swings, a called strikes and swinging and whiff rate of just 20%. This continues a trend for him in which he has struggled. It felt like it was going to be a nightmare day. He gives up a home run on the first batter of the game in Kyle Schwarber. Then he kind of settles down. Dave Roberts talked about, hey, you need to be less predictable. Gavin, it felt like he was accomplishing that, but then he gives up the 2-run double to Schwarber in the 4th that cuts the lead to 4-3, and all of a sudden he ends up getting yanked out of this one. So what did you make of Gavin Stone's? Was there any sense of, okay, good, we're sort of getting back on track, or was this just, did it feel like more of the same for you?
I mean, I've done this to you a couple times recently. Can I pick all of the above?
Sure.
Yes, the leadoff home run that Schwarber hit, I thought, oh man, here we go. Like Stone is going to really struggle again. Like the Phillies, he's going to be in for a long night. Then he started to, manage his way through the game, and things were going fine until they sort of weren't. And in that sense, it was a little bit of more of the same that we've seen recently. But on the other hand, I think like if you can take a little bit of a step back and kind of look at when he did well, like there were more times where I thought he pitched well than we saw in some of his other recent starts, where they were pretty much like bad. Like there was maybe 1 or 2 good at bats or sequences that he might have had, where I thought that there was more improvement in that sense. Obviously, the results are the results, and that's kind of what everybody focuses on. And I get it. It's a win-loss
Wow, you
business.
going away from the results? You going a little behind the numbers? The box score doesn't tell the story, Matt. This feels like a new guy. We want analytics and computers involved in umpiring, and now we want, hey, don't just look at box scores. I like this.
No,
I like the new Matt.
It's a little bit of the eye test of watching the game, of watching Stone get through some batters here and there that he wasn't successfully doing in some of his recent outings.
Yeah.
All of that being said, I think he would benefit from whatever you want to call it. If he's going to get optioned, if his back is going to be achy tomorrow, some sort of break, I think would probably suit him well.
Yeah. Two interesting numbers on Gavin Stone. The 2 pitches he threw the most tonight were 27 sliders and 18 changeups. That made up 53% of the pitches he threw tonight. Those 2 pitches landed in the strike zone 30 and 33% of the time. So when the 2 pitches you're throwing the most are landing in the strike zone less than a third of the time, and we know how important those 2 pitches are to play off of the sinker, to play off of the fastball, those are non-competitive pitches. And so as a result, he got just 15 swings on 45 pitches of those 2. So when they weren't swinging, they weren't in the zone. And when you're not getting swing and miss, when you're not getting guys to actually even offer at those 2 pitches, they sit on the fastball, they sit on the sinker, and those 30 pitches, weren't exactly not what you want to see from Gavin Stone. I'm with you. I thought heading into that 5th inning, it was like, man, this might actually be, we're turning a corner. It's a good opponent, the Phillies. And then, it just sort of unravels, feels strong. Cause again, it was just 3 earned runs. He was an out away from it being completing 5 innings. If this was 5 innings, 2 earned runs, we probably feel a lot different. Instead, it's 4 2/3 and 3 earned. So, I mean, I'm still in the camp, Matt, that I'm concerned. I shouldn't say concerned. Gavin Stone is getting further and further away from the postseason rotation. I think a month ago, I felt like, hey, this guy's been really good. He's actually had seasons where he's thrown a decent number of innings, but now I feel like the Dodgers are the number of guys that are actually in real contention for that 4th spot in the postseason, assuming Yamamoto comes back, I think is dwindling by the day.
I'm not going to go that far because I think just by process of elimination, he's going to need to start a postseason game.
I think he's below a bullpen game right now. And we know how bad the bullpen is. I think a bullpen game is ahead of Gavin Stone in the power rankings.
That's fair. I could see that, especially in the playoffs. I mean, I could see the Dodgers absolutely saying, we have it so-and-so as our opener, and we're going to mix and match from there, and we trust the game plan.
Grove's going to give us 3 innings at some point in this one because we love how much he competes in innings 2 and 3.
Yeah. I guess that's a fair assessment if you factor in a bullpen game. But I mean, he's certainly not the lock that I think he obviously once was. And this was some of the concern that I had with Stone and with the Dodgers approach to the trade deadline. And I know, like, part of me is thinking now, when the trade deadline immediately passed and we were reacting to it, I said, I felt the Dodgers needed to trade for 2 starting pitchers this year at the deadline.
Yeah.
They got just the one. I said, I can understand considering what the prices were. Part of me is thinking now, like, they might have been better off just ponying up and paying that price because of the way things are going. Now, look, if he needs some sort of reset, whether it's getting optioned to the minors for a little break or spending some time on the injured list and then he bounces back from that, then great.
Yeah.
But we've seen enough of a trend in the wrong direction now that there's enough reason to be concerned.
Yeah, I'm with you. And hey, don't worry, Kershaw's back. Matt, do you see last night? See Clayton's baby. Clayton's making his case for that number 4 spot.
I mean, look, if it's not the Kershaw we've grown accustomed to. You and I have been open with the fact that he doesn't need to be that pitcher anymore. In the playoffs, if he were to go 5 innings and allow 2 runs, even 3 runs or less, the Dodgers will take that every single time. And I would too. Like, if you tell me Kershaw, he basically can only go 5 innings, but he's not going to allow more than 3 runs. Yes, sign me up at this point because
people say this team has no heart, no grit. You see what Kershaw's doing? Guys messing around with 90-mile-an-hour fastballs and grinding it out. So kudos to Clayton Kershaw. John with the super chat. Don Drysdale would have hit Schwarber in the 9th. Yep, things were different. Things were different back then. You're probably not wrong. Anyways, There's a lot of opinions there on that. Let's shift, Matt. I want to talk to you about the bullpen, and I want to ask you a question. Is Michael Kopech the best reliever the Dodgers have?
Yeah, I mean, he's quickly moving up that list.
13 batters faced. He has retired 12 of them.
I didn't necessarily see him pitching himself into, and it was, the caveat is with Graterol being back, which he may be back, I guess, at some point now. We're not sure. But Kopech, I think, has vaulted himself quickly to top 3 of the list, and definitely into high leverage situations. I think that I didn't necessarily see happening, just because I thought, the guys ahead of him, Dave Roberts, would go with some of the familiarity and the trust that they had. But hey, might be forcing his hand a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of do an exercise, just almost like a check-in of, do you trust me in the bullpen? So let me just read. This is alphabetical order off the Dodgers roster. I'm going to read you Dodgers relievers. You tell me, do you trust this player right now today? Anthony Banda is number 1 on this list.
Yes.
Have to trust him. Banda Express. Is that Toribio that loves that nickname, the Banda Express?
Yeah.
So shout out to him. Michael Grove. We saw him tonight. First inning, great. Second inning, not great.
Shocker, right?
Exactly. Who could have seen the second inning earned run coming?
I mean, look, if Grove is 1 inning, fine, but they're insistent on. I mean, they telegraphed tonight. Like, I knew once he came into the game that he was going to. Like Dave Roberts had already said, he's going to fill the multi-inning role. So because of that, I'll say no. Yeah. I still think Grove has the potential to be an effective 1 inning relief pitcher.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's a no for me in the conversation that we're currently having. Honeywell was great up until yesterday.
A little bit, yes. I trust him still a little bit.
A little bit's not an option here, Matt. Come on now. This is a very simple game. Yes or no?
Yes, for now. But one more bad appearance, and it's no.
I mean, because this is a guy that even after the performance that he had yesterday, where he gave up, basically 1 million runs, up until yesterday, he had allowed, 2 earned runs in, 11 innings or something like that. One earned run in 7 appearances for the Dodgers. And most of those were 3-2, type innings. So he's an interesting one. If we're talking high leverage, it's still a no for me. But I think him and Grove are both in that camp where, if that's the 8th reliever that you have on your playoff roster, I don't absolutely hate it. All right, let's get to the next one. This is where things get interesting. Daniel Hudson, yes or no, you trust him?
Yes, he's got the veteran presence, the grit. I'm still in Daniel Hudson's camp.
I'm with you. He seems to be the guy they trust the most. He's the guy they've defaulted to for closers. In the midst of everybody blowing up, he had a terrible blown save, but it was just 1 game. So I'm with you on Daniel Hudson. Joe Kelly, we saw the wild pitch and the home run tonight. Do we trust Joe Kelly?
Not right now.
Yeah, definitely a no for me. Michael Kopech, we both answered this a definitive yes, right?
Yes.
Evan Phillips, back?
I do trust him.
Okay, I'm with you.
I don't know, like, it's not full, like, put him back in the closer role, no questions asked, but if he comes into some sort of high leverage situation, I trust him again.
I'm with you. I think the successful track record is much bigger than the bad track record, and a couple nice encouraging performances I'll buy back in. Alex Vesia, the last reliever on this list.
Oh, man.
He's like Phillips. He had a really bad stretch. I think he allowed a run in like 4 straight games. Since he worked a scoreless inning against the A's, and what did he end up with? He got out of the runner at second base. Yeah, he gets 1/3 of an inning in this one, but sort of gets him out of a jam, I guess, a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, I trust Vesia. I know the overall sort of the last few performances haven't been great, but it's 3 scoreless appearances now. That's a little bending of the numbers. 2 of those were 1 out. But I guess I should say it's 2 scoreless appearances. The third was the ghost runner, so that one doesn't count. 2 scoreless appearances. I think Vesia is right on the cusp. Blake Trinan on the injured list. If Blake Trinan comes back, would you trust him?
I would, but he's kind of like if he were to have another bad appearance, another 1 or 2 bad appearances, then I would go to, okay, like something is sort of off with him. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do trust him.
Yeah.
For now.
And then I think, you mix in some of the guys, Ryan Brazier coming back, who I think is sort of he's starting from a place of not trust because of what we've seen and because of maybe some of the underlying stuff. But then I still think they've got guys down in the minors that are starters now, that if this thing starts to go sideways, you're telling me Bobby Miller can't give you something out of the pen. You're telling me Robleski can't give you something out of the pen. You're telling me Edgardo Enriquez throwing 105 miles an hour down in OKC can't give you something out of the pen. I guess I'll end it with this, Matt. I'm still not worried about the bullpen. We just went through a bunch of guys that right now I don't feel great about. I still think they have a few guys I trust in high leverage. I expect to continue trusting them in high leverage. And I just think the pool of guys that they're going to be able to pull from is going to be like pick 9 out of these 13 or 14 arms who aren't starters. And I think they're going to be able to find enough guys to patch it together to the point that the bullpen isn't going to be their downfall. I think the bullpen will not be the reason that they lose if they were to lose in the postseason.
Right. That's the main point that I was going to hit on is I think by the time, like right now, hopefully by October, there are more players that we can do this exercise again that you're saying, yes, you trust. I agree that between young starters, I don't know if Bobby Miller is necessarily one of them just because the routine of, needing to
throw that fastball, baby. 102. Pump it up, Bobby.
I mean, maybe, but we've also seen him struggle with walks. So if he comes in and starts walking guys, that's going to be a pretty big problem.
He's going to be Kopech 2.0, baby. Kopech 2.0.
Maybe. But yes, I think that can ultimately come October, they'll be able to piece together a group that you can trust enough. And I also agree the biggest point really is if the Dodgers fall short in the playoffs, it's not going to be because of the bullpen. It'll be probably because of the rotation and then just the offense, the position player depth just not necessarily showing up.
Yeah, I'm with you. Before we shift to some of the updates we got before the game, anything else from this game, Matt, that we need to touch on? Obviously, again, the headline here, the Dodgers blow a 4-1 lead, end up losing this game 9-1. In classic Dodgers form, they score 4 runs in the first 2. They score no runs in the last 7. They finish this game 3 for 13 with runners in scoring position. And I'm the guy that typically points to the bottom of the lineup. Ohtani was 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. Teoscar Hernandez was 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. So it wasn't just the guys at the bottom. They had opportunities, and even Ohtani, Teoscar, who nobody's complaining about, were guys that couldn't get it done. Ohtani was 0 for 5 tonight. Kike Hernandez goes 0 for 3 in the cleanup spot, which still feels funny to say out loud. He didn't have a single at bat with a runner in scoring position in the cleanup spot. How ironic is that? I think every other Dodger basically had an opportunity with the runner in scoring position, except for the guy hitting cleanup, which is pretty funny. So they lose this one 9-4, a tough call in the 6th inning, and then a bullpen that implodes in part because of that call, and Kyle Schwarber just having himself a day.
Yeah, 2 things. I'll try to be quick. One is I know Scott kind of brought it up, sort of not as a joke, but mentioned glasses Kike as being the difference.
Yeah.
Joe Davis did talk about on the broadcast today. It turns out Kike did go have his eyes checked out again, and there was astigmatism, I think is what he said.
This has happened before, right? This isn't the first time that we've gotten this revelation about Kike at the end of a season, right? Was it somebody else?
Yeah, it was with him and glasses. This is the first time.
I feel like I've heard this story of a guy getting eyes checked and then feeling like things were different. Somebody in the chat tell me who I'm thinking of, because I know I've heard this story before. And if it wasn't Kike, it was somebody else.
Yeah, there were players that Joe Davis brought. Kike was talking to somebody. The name is escaping me right now, but Joe Davis said basically Kike was talking to another player who had the same issue and went to get his eyes, and turned out he had astigmatism, and was recommended he starts wearing glasses. And that made a huge difference. So I can't remember the name, so forgive me for that. But yes, it has happened. The first time with Kike. And the other thing to take away from tonight is that Thursday is an off day. And so the Dodgers will not be losing, so everybody can look forward to that.
Yeah. And by the way, Eddie Rosario is Joey Gallo are the 2 names in here. I have no idea if either of those is true. Those don't sound familiar.
Rosario sounds a little familiar. I'm not sure about Gallo.
Okay. Somebody can do some work in there.
Oh, Luis Robert actually might have been somebody that Joe Davis mentioned.
Got it. Anyways, I mean, that's hilarious to me that that's the difference. And, it's like the chiropractor on Muncie. It's like, now we're trying this. Why not try this earlier? Anyways, who knows? Here we go. There's a story. The first thing that pops up is Jay Gibbons, Los Angeles Dodgers outfielder Jay Gibbons has his eyes examined. So who knows who knows what that story is? Nobody remembers Jay Gibbons. Definitely not the guy that I was thinking of. But yeah, I mean, anyways, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't have anything else to say about this lineup, about this group. It's not a very good group. I have low expectations for this group of 9 players they trotted out tonight. And when Ohtani goes 0 for 5 on top of it, I'm complaining about 4 through 9. And when the guy at the top is 0 for 5, he's the worst hitter of the bunch today. There's not much else that we could add. A couple more super chats here. John says Schwarber had a 3-1 count with first base open in the 5th. Roberts should have walked him with 1 out and Turner on deck. Schwarber ends up hitting a 2-run double. What do you think, Matt? Is this sort of playing the results? At this point, Schwarber had 1 home run. So I don't know.
I think it is a little bit, but if I don't remember this situation specifically. So if you are walking Schwarber, then that's since he hit a 2-run double, and that's loading the bases then for Trey Turner.
There were runners on. Oh no. Okay. So it was runners on first and third. Rojas stole second. So Schwarber was up with runners on second and third after the stolen base.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of loading the bases with 1 out. And I get the line of thinking, Schwarber's hot, fine. You are setting up double play, but that's also Trey Turner batting. And I know that we joked it when Trey Turner was on the Dodgers. We joked. And there was some truth I felt to it that he hit into kind of a higher number of double plays than you would expect for a guy who is that fast. But when he is as fast as he is, like it impacts, I think, the expectancy. Is there a nerd stat we can get you to pull up for expected double play rate or something?
Probably. We gotta search that. You love the X numbers, so
yeah.
XGIDP. You want one? You want one of those?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. To kind of count on Trey hitting into double play, I think is a little bit different than if it was somebody else who's maybe not as fast.
Yeah. And to the point, at the 3-1 point, there were runners at second and third. When that at bat started, it was runners at first and third. I know Schwarber had a great game tonight. He's been very good. He is on my fantasy team. So, there's a little small sliver of positivity in tonight. I understand. I don't think it would have been the craziest thing in the world had they done it. Keep in mind. Well, actually, let me put it this way. Here's why. I just realized this. It was a 4-1 game at the time. You don't bring the go-ahead run to the plate. Like, worst thing that Schwarber can do is tie the game at that point. You don't load the bases with 1 out. So I think that's the answer there, John, as to the biggest reason why you don't do that is because of the score of the game. It's also the 5th inning. It's so early that you're not really trying to, give up 1 run to prevent 3 runs. You're just trying to, it's a different ball game at that point. So I don't think it's a crazy question, but I understand why the Dodgers ultimately made the decision that they did. Hawaiian Care with the super chat. I sincerely hope the offensive slump happens now rather than before the end of the season. After this low, the only way is up. I feel like I've said this 100 times, Matt. This might be the worst Dodgers lineup I've seen in a long time. Like Kike Hernandez hitting 4th, Rojas hitting 6th, Barnes, Kiermaier. Barnes, fine. Barnes has been fine. Easy on Barnes. Okay, I know his batting average is hitting 269. Kiermaier's like Brett McKinney level offensive production from him. Another not awesome defensive play from him in center field, takes a step forward, ball goes over his head. Just saying, platinum glove, no offense. Can we at least make a couple of these? Can we get that guy Rojas? Like, Rojas is who Kiermaier should be. If he's as good defensively as everyone talks, I want the guy who's laying out in front of the wall, going both directions against the Dodgers. He's really bad. Jason Hayward's been awful. Rojas in the 6 hole, Kike in the 4 hole. This is a brutal lineup. Just an absolutely brutal lineup.
Yeah, I think basically this is the lineup with Gavin Lux having turned it around. Like, if he would have kept his first half, if that would have carried over to the second after the All-Star break, it would have been even worse than what we kind of seen from the team.
He reached base twice tonight, 2 times in 4 plate appearances,
which is a little concerning. Look, hopefully, I did see somebody saying we're acting like the injured players coming back are just going to start hitting right away. I get it.
Can't be worse.
That's what I'm like. I would rather bank on kind of the guys, like the talent of the caliber that are guys that are returning than hoping, like you said, we're not expecting Kevin Kiermaier to all of a sudden start tearing the cover off the ball by any means. And that being said, I think his lack of production at the plate has been worse than I sort of thought.
He's so bad.
But yeah, I mean, Hawaiian Kira, yeah, hopefully, like you said, this low, it can only go up. So we'll just hang your hat on that.
We got some injury updates coming in a little bit. Godfrey with a super chat. New to the chat, love the show. Can you guys try to explain to me why Roberts isn't playing Rosario? Why trade for them and not use them? we can tell you what Dave Roberts has said. I don't think either of us agrees with him. But what he has said is that Rosario was brought in to face lefties. Doesn't view him as an option against righties. That's all I got. I disagree entirely. Like, he's been above average against righties this year. We're not even talking about like a 90 weighted runs created plus. We're talking over 100, I believe, against righties. So it makes no sense to me. I cannot give you an explanation that I agree with. I can only give you the explanation that I've been given.
Yeah. Well, first, Godfrey, thank you for joining us, and definitely thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's in here tonight and doing the super chats. We enjoy doing these live shows with everyone, even though it can be frustrating after losses and there's some venting that needs to happen. To your question about Rosario, yeah, I mean, it was a little ironic that Dave, basically reiterated that, hey, he's a platoon only player, and then Rosario's first start with the Dodgers came against a right-handed pitcher. Yeah, I mean, I don't really get it either. I mean, considering he can play multiple positions, like it doesn't have to be only shortstop. Like, yeah, I don't know how you haven't necessarily mixed him into the lineup a little bit more. And Evie, I see you. He's saying no thanks to us poor people. We don't look at anybody as any of our fans in that way. I did specifically say thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight. So we definitely, whether you do super chats or not, we appreciate everybody who tunes in with us.
Absolutely. Rosario, by the way, on the season, 177 plate appearances against right-handed hitters. He's a 102 weighted runs created plus, above average. He's hitting 292. I know that's a number our guy Matt loves here. 702 OPS. Like, again, Kiermaier, Hayward, like, he's better than all these guys. Unquestionably better. 177 plate appearances. It's not like, oh, he has 42 at bats against righties. It makes no sense to me. So yeah, look, when they made the trade, I was like, perfect. He's going to play against lefties at second base. He's going to play against righties in right field. Platoon him with Pages, platoon him with Lux. We're cooking with gas. And they're basically doing the opposite. Play-by-play with JJ. Awesome series to call. I hope we get to play you in the playoffs. It would be sweet. Awesome job as always. Thank you, JJ. I'm not sure if you're coming from a Phillies. It looks like you got a Phillies hat on in there. So we appreciate the super chat. Look, I mean, a little bad blood would be fun in the postseason, a little Dodgers, Phillies, but I don't know. I don't want to see Kyle Schwarber 4 times a game. That's going to be terrifying. So, I mean, look, everybody's going to be good once you get to the postseason. Everybody's going to be dangerous. Maybe rephrase. Everybody's dangerous in the postseason. The Phillies, Aaron Nola would not be a guy I want to see. Their bullpen's really, really nasty. Obviously, Harper, Trey Turner, Schwarber. They got some dudes. So this would not be a fun team to play, but I imagine if you were a unaffiliated baseball fan to either of these teams, this would kind of be the dream scenario in the NLCS, right?
Yeah, probably. And JJ, thanks for joining us. We get other opposing fans in here on occasion.
Yes.
When it's cordial and just kind of, good nature. We certainly can appreciate that instead of some of the trolling that tends to happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Another super chat here from some kind of wonderful. They have no chemistry either. They should have rushed the mound when Lux got hit. Dave has lost the clubhouse, I think. They have no hunger. They have no fire. I mean, Lux barked at him. What the F was that? I believe was his words. I was worried Castellanos was going to just charge Lux from right field. Castellanos, they had the camera on him. I don't know if you noticed this. Camera on him. Every step he took was towards the infield. So he was ready for something. I don't know. I mean, did they need... Look, if there would have been a fight, we probably would have been talking about, hey, you like to see it. Maybe this is the spark that they need. Dave Roberts gets ejected. Maybe that's the spark that they need. Just the scenario of how everything went down with guys getting hit, I just didn't feel like it was egregious enough to justify. And I'm not, like, opposed to throwing at dudes and charging mounts. Like, I'm not that. Trust me. It's just... Groves was clearly not on purpose. Grove clearly didn't want any of the smoke. He didn't want to fight. He's fighting to just keep his job. He's not trying to get suspended. And then it's Gavin Lux who gets hit. Like, if they're doing it on purpose, is Lux the guy you're going to hit? I don't know. I don't know. I don't view this as a chemistry issue. Let me summarize my thoughts there.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think so either. I think the biggest thing is what Grove did wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
It wasn't entirely clear if the Phillies hit Lux intentionally. I think I'm inclined to say yes more than no, but even with that, like, it's not you definitely were throwing at our guy. Like, we have a serious issue with this. It wasn't first pitch,
fastball behind him kind of a thing.
So I think all that considered, it was sort of understandable why that didn't necessarily happen. I think the no hunger, no fire stuff, like I've talked about in the past, I do think that there is a little bit to Dave Roberts' view of, hey, like, it's a long season, everything is okay. Like, I understand that. I do think that there were times. Tonight was ironically, like, he got ejected tonight, but he got ejected because the umpire just didn't want to talk to him. It wasn't like he got ejected because Dave threw a complete tirade and, was dropping F-bombs here and there, and that the umpire said, okay, like, I'm not going to listen to this.
Yeah.
No fire. I mean, hopefully some kind of wonderful. You're with us through the end of the season and into the playoffs, because depending on how it goes, then I may have, I might plant a flag a little bit more firmly on that.
I'll shift a little. Gavin Lux. So in that bottom of the eighth, it's 8-4. Freeman grounds out. Kike flies out. Slider away. Gets hit by a 94-mile-an-hour sinker. If you're going to hit a guy, you're going to do two things. One is you get the first two outs of the inning. So the guy that you put on is not going to hurt you. And then secondly, it's probably a 94-mile-an-hour sinker that hits you in the shoulder. So the more I think about it, the more I'm inclined to believe this was on purpose. Strom probably felt like Castellanos is barking at him. Now I've got to do something. Otherwise, I'm going to have to face Castellanos back in the dugout. So it probably is on purpose. He hits Lux, who's, not the biggest dude in the world. Probably not a guy that's trying to get into a fight himself. He's in a good little spot. Miguel Rojas due up next. Yeah. So I think it was in purpose, but I don't know. Sometimes you just get hit. You just have to wear it. You move on. So not surprised there. Let's take a pause real quick. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, SoRare MLB. If you have not already, please click the link in the description to get started. Join. It is totally free to join. This is fantasy baseball combined with digital player collectible cards. And normally fantasy baseball, if you don't start at the beginning of the season, then that's a wrap. You can't join. You can't enjoy it down the stretch. SoRare is different. You can draft a team today. There are new competitions twice a week, every Monday through Thursday, every Friday through Sunday. You can enter a competition. It is totally free, although there is the option to purchase player cards and compete in upper tiers of competition against other players who are buying and selling cards. So you can buy guys who you think are on the upswing, and then when they get there, you can sell them, trade, all sorts of stuff. It's a pretty sweet deal, totally new, totally unique. So check out SoRare MLB. Again, click the link below. Join myself, Blake Williams, Matt Moreno, Scott Gearman, all the rest of us in playing SoRare MLB. Link in the description to sign up. Couple injury updates to get to, Matt. They're pretty significant ones. Let's start with Brusdar Graterol. Anthony and I came on the show last night saying, man, we hope it's a strain. And then we read the post-game quotes. Hey, guys, bad news. Grade 3, torn. It's a wrap. Dave Roberts, pregame. Hey, my bad, guys. My bad. I said grade 3. I meant grade 1. I meant by torn and done forever, done for the year, done for a long time. I meant the lowest possible strain that you could possibly have, and potentially a guy who's coming back at some point this season. What do you do, Matt? You and Blake are there at the stadium sometimes. You're covering some of these games. You've been around Dave Roberts. I don't think he does this on purpose. I really don't. Is he just really bad at this?
So if people have been on here with us before, I've speculated that I think what happens is Dave has so much on his plate that keeping track of all the different details, combined with, I think, the Dodgers organization as a whole prefers to not disclose specifics with injuries.
Yeah.
Leads to mistakes. I will cut Dave some slack with this one because, frankly, like, Graterol played the part. I mean, he was visibly upset, in tears, needed help getting off the field, needed help down the dugout steps, needed help into the clubhouse, was on crutches after the game. I saw that and I thought, oh man, like he must know, like he must have felt like a significant pop or something, and he must know that this is just done. And so when Dave comes out and says that, like, it's understandable. Obviously, I didn't necessarily think the MRI would show a grade 1. Like, to hear it was only a grade 1 was a little surprising. So yes, it's another situation of, hey, Dave gave a wrong, quote unquote injury update, but I'm not fully pinning this one on him because Graterol sold it. Like it looked like it matched up, right? Like what we saw with Graterol and what Dave was saying made sense. It wasn't like he said, oh, it's only grade 1, he'll be fine. And then it's the reverse, right? Where it's like, well, actually they did an MRI and it turns out it is a grade 3 and this and that. Like I would say, hey, Dave, like we saw he couldn't put any pressure on his leg. Like you thought it was grade 1, it's really grade 3. Like what happened here? But for it to be the inverse, like I'm not blaming him this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Max Muncy headed to Oklahoma City to begin a rehab assignment, I believe this weekend, and Tommy Edman expected to join him. Is that right, Matt?
That is correct. Yes. So their rehab assignments are starting. Not really clear how long. I think each will be there probably about a week.
Yeah.
Then things could sort of get interesting. I mean, looking at the schedule, maybe just kind of rough math, the Dodgers might be planning on bringing them back once their homestand begins, would be my guess.
Well, in Tommy Edman, there was talk, when I interviewed Katie Wu, she said Dodgers play the Cardinals in St. Louis. I believe it's August 16th, which is about 9 days from now. So, I'm sure Edman, that's a date he would love to be there for. I'm sure he'd love to play in a Dodgers game that not in St. Louis prior to that. But some positive news there. Again, Muncy, for the longest time, we were waiting for the day he would go on an assignment. So we've got that. Maybe the more significant ones. Let's start with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He was interviewed today. He was asked, he's now thrown 2 bullpen sessions on August 3rd and August 6th. He's played long toss. And he was asked, hey, how encouraged have you been over the last few weeks? He said, overall, the rehab program, everything is good. Every time I go to the bullpen, I feel better than the last time. I think I'm getting better. He was then asked, how many simulated games or starts on a rehab assignment do you think you'll need? He said, I think I'm going to throw some live batting practice. After that, probably a couple minor league games, still working out the specifics. Last but not least, he was asked, last time you said your goal was to return this season. Are you more confident of pitching 2024 now? And he said, yes, of course, it's the same goal. So still hoping, expecting, aiming to pitch at some point this season. He's got a live BP, a couple minor league games in front of him. But yet again, I'm not saying take it to the bank and bet all your money that this guy pitches for the Dodgers this season. However, positive news on Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think all you could have asked for at this point were these type of updates, right? Of signs of, okay, he's healthier, he's feeling fine, he's getting through different checkpoints and clearing them, and not, it's not like he threw his first bullpen session and said, hey, there's actually a lot of soreness now, I can't keep going. That being said, the facing hitters is going to be a big test, because I think your intensity level, your velocity, probably your adrenaline sort of increases. If he gets through that without any sort of setback, I'll be more confident in him returning. I think his answer when he was asked, are you more, last time you said it was just a goal to come back, are you more confident now with the progress you made? To sort of answer it as saying like, yes, it was always the goal to pitch this year, is kind of like a non-answer. Yeah. There's also the possibility that it was something lost in translation. So I'm going to hope for that, and not that Yamamoto is trying to sort of dodge the question.
Last update here was on Mookie Betts. Of course, the news comes down yesterday from Dave Roberts that Betts is going to play shortstop when he returns. Some interesting quotes. He was asked about the conversation he had with Miguel Rojas. He basically said, Miggy's going to bounce around third base, second base. He says if there's a day that Mookie takes off, Rojas will play short. I think Rojas is just excited to be back, and reiterated to Dave Roberts that he'll do whatever it takes to help us win. I wouldn't say any surprise there. This was the quote I found more interesting. He was asked, hey, what made you decide Mookie Betts at shortstop? Because I've said all along, outfield makes more sense to me. Why are they doing this? He said, I think there's a lot of things that went into the decision. One being Gavin's play at second base, and certainly with the bat. He continued later in the quote, when and if we do pivot, I don't know the answer, but I think going this way keeps optionality open, because Mookie can always kick back out to the outfield. Miggy can always kick back to short. You're not going to do it at a moment's notice, but I think you can always default to that. I listen to that quote, Matt, and what it tells me is, and I've been on this train all along. This was the reason for my belief in Gavin Lux. This was my reason for why Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez were not DFA'd. And I think it fits. The one thing the Dodgers do, I think, well, that I know bothers us short term, but more often than not helps in the long term, is they are willing to take the long-term view of things and basically say, rather than what decision can we make tomorrow that will help us win tomorrow's game and only tomorrow's game, they say, our goal is to win a World Series. So how can we do everything possible to get us there? With Mookie Betts, what he's saying, as far as the lens I interpret this through, is if we play Mookie at shortstop, A, it gives him reps to potentially be more of an option there defensively. B, it's giving reps to Andy Pages and Amed Rosario and Kike Hernandez and all these other guys in the outfield that maybe, just maybe, one or two of these guys turns it around and becomes somebody that we can trust in the postseason. And you know what? If not, if none of those lottery tickets cash, Mookie can't play shortstop competently, Pages continues to struggle, then guess what? We put Mookie in right field, we put Rojas at shortstop, and we go with the thing that's the obvious answer sitting right in front of us. So I think they're playing the long game, aiming for the highest possible ceiling outcome rather than the highest possible floor. And look, I'm not going to argue with it. I think it's the right move. And when I hear Dave said we can always kick Mookie back out to the outfield, I'm like, okay, good. They understand the reality of the situation. They're just keeping their options open.
Yeah, the when and if we pivot comment from Dave is definitely what caught my attention. I get what you're saying. I hadn't fully thought it out in that extensively, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
It makes sense. For me, though, I don't think Mookie's going to make enough defensive improvement at shortstop.
Yeah.
And I don't think Pages and Kike and all these guys are going to completely turn it around. So for me, I would have spent, and not that Mookie forgot how to play the outfield, but he is going to need some reps out there again.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's talented enough. He has enough history, experience there to, if they decide, his third game back, hey, go play right field today, he'll be able to do it just fine. But considering what they did at the trade deadline, from that point to now, I probably would have had Mookie, and maybe they haven't, it just hasn't been seen and they haven't mentioned it. I would have had him start doing more work in the outfield.
Yeah.
And just let him play outfield when he comes back. Like, put him there, and either it's Rojas or it's Edman or it's Rosario, who's your starting shortstop.
Yeah.
And then you still have room in left field for Pages or Kike or however you want that. Chris Taylor, if he comes back. We haven't even discussed him as one of the injured guys.
Well, that's only if you put Mookie at center field, because obviously Teoscar's in the other corner. So you've got to figure out.
What I would do. I would just do that. And like, we're not seeing enough from Kiermaier. I know that Edman can play it. Like, there was the report that is their plan is to play Edman in center field. Dave was asked about it in San Diego right after the trade, and he said no, like, we haven't decided anything, so who knows what's going to happen there. But yeah, I would Mookie wasn't good. Mookie took on that challenge of playing shortstop, was adequate, had some struggles that were to be expected. Like, I wasn't expecting him to be perfect, but it wasn't good enough to where I can for me, where it makes sense at this point to still try that with the roster construction that they have.
Yeah, I'm with you. The one other quote that I found funny in that exchange was he was asked, how does Mookie Betts staying at shortstop and Miguel Rojas returning impact Nick Ahmed? And he responded with, we'll see. I think we have some tough decisions. We've got a lot of good ball players and only have so many spots. Code for Nick, keep cashing those Major League Baseball checks for a few more days, maybe a couple more weeks, bud, because I'm not even going to beat around the bush. You're definitely getting DFA'd when that roster crunch comes. So kudos to Nick Ahmed for cashing those checks. Before we get to some questions, let me go through some interesting post-game quotes that I've started to see trickle in. If you see anything on the timeline, Matt, feel free to add. But it was Miguel Rojas and his response to what happened at third base. Jack Harris tweeting, Miguel Rojas was heated about Hunter Winstead's call at third base. Quote, I think he predetermined it and he's looking for it so he can get some attention. That's what bothers me. I was thinking, Matt, if you are looking at Rojas's feet and trying to see the interference happening while also trying to see whether or not he tagged the player, that's a lot to be watching. Rojas, the full extent, I knew that I didn't do anything wrong to obstruct the bag or anything like that. I was just trying to catch the ball and make a play. When you're running towards a target, trying to catch a ball and trying to get your feet situated to make a play, you never expect the umpire is looking to be the hero there. and trying to make a call just because we got a rule in place. You expect a guy that has been in the league for a long time to have a little bit of feel for the game, what kind of play it is. I think this guy has seen this play a million times, and he just wanted some part of, I don't know, part of a moment in the game. And it's really sad that it changed the whole context of the game for us, especially the way we're playing right now, trying to win games. It's unfortunate that an umpire can change the narrative of a game and of a series. Love that. You want to say no fire and no bite from the Dodgers. Marvin Hudson, the crew chief on the call, quote, he was in front of the bag without the ball. That's the new obstruction rule. Plus, he was running in front of him to third. He was in front of third without the ball, so he obstructed the runner. The runner didn't have a lane to get to the bag. Your thoughts on those quotes, Matt?
Rojas a couple times has not shied away from being critical of an umpire. That's been interesting, and yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that we had to hear from the crew chief and not Hunter Wondelset himself. I get it, like it's not like unique to tonight. Yeah. It's just how it happens. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Dave Roberts was described as fired up in his press conference. Quote, he missed the call there. He missed the call. This might be the first time I've ever said that. That's an egregious missed call. He later added, quote, it changed the complexion of the game. So some big thoughts from Dave Roberts there. Yeah, obviously, I think he's right to be frustrated. I think Rojas is right to be frustrated. And look, I think as fans, we're looking at that and we're frustrated by what we're seeing. Imagine being the players. Imagine wearing that, waking up every day and that being their reality. And then to have a game impacted by a call like that. It's brutal. It's brutal stuff. Some more super chats here, and then we'll get to some other questions. Let's not ignore that the Dodgers were 3 for 21 with runners in scoring position the past 2 games. Ohtani hitting 172 his last 29 at bats. Streaky hitter or not clutch. I will take door number C, please. On if those are my 2 options.
I think he's more streaky than not clutch. I don't think he's strictly a streaky hitter, but there's more streakiness than it's just him not being clutch.
Yeah, there you go. Richard, Lux just stood there and took it. No one wearing a Dodger uniform said or did anything. Grove had that deer in the headlights look. They got shown up. It's Lux and Grove. Like, we're not talking about veteran guys here. We're talking about 2 guys that are just trying to keep their jobs. I don't know.
I mean, Lux did say something.
Barked at him.
I will agree. Grove looked like he just wanted the ball and I think some of that was like it wasn't intentional and he didn't want to. If he had said something, he probably knew. If he had said something to Castellanos, then that was only going to instigate it. Even if he said it wasn't on purpose, like I think Castellanos probably would have. He was already fired up. He might have taken that the wrong way, and it would have become something bigger than it needed to be.
Yeah, Castellanos did not look like a logical, angry person. He just looked crazy. Jonathan wants to know, any chance Danny Duffy joins Muncy and Edman in Rancho? Does he have a role with the organization, Matt, that we know of? Because if maybe not, then I think the answer is no.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to look in. Maybe he's some sort of special assistant to an advisor. It's in the baseball ops department or something.
Some kind of wonderful. Is there a lack of leadership on this team? Obviously, Miguel Rojas, we mentioned just a minute ago, a guy who's presumably a leader. Mookie Betts has a leadership role, obviously has been injured. Clayton Kershaw has said it's hard for him to lead. He feels like when he's not contributing in the way that he wants to contribute. You look at Jack Flaherty's brand new, Tyler Glasnow, that doesn't necessarily feel like his MO, even though he's the ace. There's not really a dominant personality in the bullpen necessarily. Freddie Freeman's a little bit more soft-spoken. Like Ohtani, loves baseball, cares deeply about the game. Like, do you feel like there's a lack of leadership on this team as you sort of walk through that? You've got guys like Rojas and Barnes who are, quote unquote, strong leaders who have opinions, who will speak up. And yet it's Miguel Rojas and Austin Barnes. It's not Freddie Freeman and, Mookie Betts, Will Smith.
Yeah, I will say the Dodgers probably could benefit from having an all-star caliber position player who was comfortable in that leadership kind of vocal role. Yeah. Rojas is one. Jason Hayward is another. Fact of the matter is, outside of like injuries, like neither of them, both of them are kind of, Rojas isn't a platoon player, but in a perfect world, he's filling a utility role off the bench for the Dodgers, not starting at shortstop as much as he's, to his credit, has succeeded at because they've needed it. So could they benefit from that? Yes. I think a lot of those guys we've seen kind of, as a team roster turnover, and those guys got a little bit older, like they've phased out of the organization a little bit. So is it an area that they could benefit from? Sure. Is it like significantly glaring? Not necessarily.
Yeah, I saw someone in the chat say, like, who is the leader of the 2020 team? There was one person who gave an infamous speech to the 2020 Dodgers that was credited with sort of shifting the culture a little bit, and they end up winning the World Series. That guy's still there. It's Mookie Betts. So obviously he's not in the clubhouse right now, by all accounts, because I haven't seen him in the dugout. Have you?
He's not sticking around for the games, but he's there before getting his work in. And so he's like around the clubhouse, but yeah, he's not, to the best of my knowledge, he hasn't really been there for like games.
Which I'm sure there's people in the chats that have thoughts on that.
I mean,
John Bleeding Blue says Miguel Rojas, future manager. Him or Austin Barnes, Matt, who gets a managerial job first?
Rojas.
Wow.
Because
really?
Because Barnes' career is not done yet. Rojas is closer to the end of his career than Barnes is.
Wow. Good save there. Good save. Catchers, though, that's the way to go. Let's get to a few questions here, and we'll close this one out. As always, we appreciate everybody joining us. We know that these aren't always the most fun conversations when it's just frustration, but we appreciate you being a part of this with us anyways. As we've said, we do this. We're committed to doing this as many nights as possible, 5 or 6 nights a week. Live shows post game here on the Dodger Blue YouTube page. So thank you for joining us. Here we go. David asking the question. We won the division last year by 16 games, but fell short in the playoffs. I know this sounds crazy, but would it benefit us finishing closer and playing meaningful games late? Matt, this is what I heard when we got bounced last year and the year before. It was, who cares about the regular season? They blew everybody out. No meaningful games, nothing to play for, no pulse, bye week. All of it. They're doing the opposite. People are still mad. I don't know. Is there any truth to any of this, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I brought this, I think after you and I did the live show after the Padres swept that 2-game series, and I said, hey, like, if the division ends up being close into September, like, this will be the opposite of what we've become accustomed to, and fans were always upset saying the Dodgers are coasting. Right now, it doesn't look like they're going to be in that position, and so, yeah, maybe it will pay off. I don't know. I think I would still take the path of we don't need to floor it all the way through September. There could be a happy medium. They don't always need to win the division by 20 games. They don't necessarily need to have their lead down to 3 games. I think if you could settle somewhere in the middle, that would be great. But still, I think the bigger benefit is not having to exhaust every possible option because you need to win games. Oh, I think you're muted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
THP wants to know, would you move Will Smith down in the lineup? 198 average since May 1st. I would not move him down as long as Kike Hernandez is hitting cleanup on nights like tonight. I do think there's a world, Matt, where if Mookie comes back and Muncy comes back, that I could see Will Smith not batting 4th, but actually moving down as far as 6th.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I think the way the Dodgers have sort of telegraphed things, and I think some of it, like we saw tonight, even with the limited options with the lineup, they still went left, right, all the way through. And with Dave saying that Ohtani's going to remain the leadoff hitter, Mookie will be second to break up the lefties. We can expect Freeman to be 3rd. I think we can expect Teoscar to be in the cleanup spot. Once Muncy's back, I think he'll be 5th. And then I think we're going to see Will Smith batting 6th. If he gets hot and Teoscar cools, then I think we'll see 4 and 6 flip.
Hawaiian Kira wants to know, is being overtaken in the division the fire this team needs to be successful in the postseason? I'll let you answer first. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again.
Look, I get the question, Hawaiian Kira. I know you're in here with us a lot, and you're not the only one who's expressed the sentiment. Jeff mentioned it earlier. Like, these teams are still technically chasing the Dodgers. They haven't overtaken them. If the Dodgers win 2 or 3 in a row and those teams lose 1 or 2 or 3 in a row, all of a sudden the lead is back up to, if my math is correct, 6 to 7 games, depending on obviously how it unfolds. If you think that maybe the Diamondbacks or the Padres catch the Dodgers in the standings, that you're going to get, not that you're necessarily asking for this, but I can tell you're not going to get rah-rah quotes from Dave Roberts from the players saying, yeah, it was a wake up call. We've been caught. We need to start playing. Like, it's going to be, they're good teams. It's a long season. This happens, ebbs and flows.
Although Kike Hernandez, Matt, started playing well because there were some other guys coming to take his job. It's like he just waited until the DFA crunch was coming, and then he started
the glasses
to hit,
and the glasses and the glasses. The eye exam helped too.
It's true. I understand all of this. The key to the Dodgers being good is going to be getting good baseball players back and not starting Kevin Kiermaier and Austin Barnes and Jason Hayward. Like, the day that those guys are not in the lineup are going to be the days when the Dodgers, I think, become successful. And I know that's not like the most satisfying answer today, because that's not happening tomorrow. We get to watch the team that we just saw for the next 7 to 10 days probably, and just cross our fingers that they can keep their head above water until those guys come back. But I saw somebody else asking, do you feel like this team doesn't fight? Baseball is such a hard sport to judge whether or not a team cares or not, because typically it just means did they come back from 8-4 down and come back to win, when in reality they just weren't very good tonight. This team isn't very good. As currently constructed, with the guys who are injured being injured, they aren't very good. And so we're holding them to a standard as if Mookie and Max and all those guys were here and saying, why aren't you playing up at this level? And the answer is because Gavin Stone's on the mound and he's exhausted, and Joe Kelly and Michael Grove are in the bullpen, and they're the guys that are coming in for, in Grove's case, a second inning. Honeywell for 3 2/3 innings. I just think the fire that needs to come is just to get healthy. Look, even when Freddie Freeman coming back over the last few days, I feel like we've seen an uptick in offense because Freddie Freeman's back and he's very good. He was 2 for 2 with runners in scoring position today. So I just think the key to turning this thing around, Matt, is getting good players back and playing good baseball, and not having Kevin Kiermaier in the lineup, and not having Jason Hayward and Kike Hernandez batting fourth. That's the key as far as I'm concerned.
That's fair. The only one I'm going to push back on is Austin Barnes, because if you look at Dodgers catcher stats the last extended period amount of time, it's
3 for 43, I believe, was the number I pulled last night on Will Smith. So
rough.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad. And that's the other piece that's worth pointing out. I'm talking about all these guys are injured, and then the good players that are there, because keep in mind, Freddie Freeman missed an extended period. He's now back. Will Smith's been terrible. Somebody mentioned Ohtani's hitting 170 over his last 30 at bats or whatever. So even the guys, Teoscar has been good, and Gavin Lux has been good. That's about it. And some people still want to DFA Gavin Lux, which is a crack up to me. John says, I quit paying my therapist because she can't answer why Will Smith is hitting 183 in the last 30 games. Can you answer this question, guys? I have nothing for you. Trust me. If anybody on this show, John, could answer it for you, I wish it would be me, as the greatest Will Smith apologist that we have. It hurts me. I have no answers for you. None.
Well, first, John, we appreciate you still paying us for a super chat, even though you stopped paying your therapist.
Yes.
My answer to that is going to be that it's just who Will Smith sort of is for whatever reason, because we've seen it multiple times now. And so I think it's a trend.
Yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible. People have pointed that out. Kenny wants to know, people keep using the excuse of injured players. What explains how the Padres keep winning when they also have major players out? I think it's a totally fair question. And I would say the same thing I said earlier. The Dodgers have won 66 games and the Padres have won 63 games. And so we're asking why the Dodgers have been bad over the last couple of weeks. Well, when their healthy players were there, they were way better than the Padres were, which is why, even though the fact that the Padres have gained, 4 games in the last 10 on the Dodgers remain 3 games ahead of the Padres. So the excuse is that's the comparison here. If the Dodgers were 5 games back, this would be a fair question. They're 3 games up.
Yeah.
My 2 cents.
I mean, it's tough to not all injuries are equal. Joe Musgrove is important to the Padres, but then you get into is Joe Musgrove or Mookie Betts more important? Who's more important to their team? That becomes a little bit of a slippery slope. The other thing too is, I meant to mention this earlier. The Dodgers basically have, the way they filled out their bench, they've pretty much have gotten zero production, whether it's injuries, inconsistent, bad performances, whatever it's basically been a complete loss for them. Whereas the Padres, I'm guessing, haven't had that same futility from their reserve guys. And so that is also a factor. And it's not to deflect by any means. It's just a reality. I don't think, the Dodgers, they like to, Andrew Friedman, you'll often hear him say, hey, we we had these three options. We needed to hit on one of them, and we haven't hit on any of them, or we did hit on one or did hit on two. And they basically have hit on none. And so that's put them, in a bind on top of all the injuries.
Somebody asked this question, and this is a great one. Bryce wants to know, what are the odds the Dodgers hold on to their NL divisional lead? Okay. I happen to reside in a state where one could wager on such things as this, Matt. And so I just looked this up. The Dodgers, as of today, are 66-49. They have a 3-game lead over the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have a 3-game lead over the San Diego Padres. If you had to guess, so, for those that don't understand betting, plus 100 is even money. Minus 200 means heavy favorite. Plus 500 means long shot, etc. If you had to guess what the Dodgers' odds to win the National League West would be, what do you think? And I want the chat to answer this question, and we'll throw some answers up. What do you think the Dodgers' odds to win the National League West are?
I think it's still like plus 400 or something.
So minus 400 would be minus 400 because you're saying heavy favorites. Dodgers heavy favorites.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so minus 400. I want to get some thoughts here, just out of curiosity. Padres or Diamondbacks? Who do you think the second team would be with the best odds?
It should be the Padres, but I think it might be the Diamondbacks.
Okay, so I see some people saying minus 500, minus 300, 50-50, so even money, minus 450. The Dodgers are currently minus 525 to win the division. All these people, and I'm not telling you you're wrong. The Padres are plus 650, Matt, to win. You get $6.50 for every $1 you bet on the Padres. The Diamondbacks are 11-1 to win the to win the NL West. It's just the NL West. That's insane to me. I would have guessed. I see some people in there minus 300, minus 250. That's what I would have guessed. The Dodgers have lost 4 games in the standings in the last 10. They're going to be banged up for the next week and a half, 2 weeks. This is going to get uglier before it's going to get better. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not what I would have it at necessarily. I still think that they are the favorite to win the division. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's a little strong.
They have, let's see, the only team with better odds to win their division right now is the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are minus 575. The Phillies are minus 475 to win their division. The Yankees are minus 170. Guardians minus 180. Astros minus 170. So, look, find yourself in a place that allows you to place bets if you think this Dodgers team sucks, because you could make yourself a heck of a lot of money if you are right on that one. Let's go out with this one, Matt. A very important question I asked Anthony last night. Don't feel like I got a real answer out of him. Well, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first is macaroni and cheese pasta? This came up on a podcast that I was listening to, and it sparked a hilarious debate. And so I want to know from you, is macaroni and cheese pasta?
Absolutely not. Macaroni and cheese is macaroni and cheese. It
has macaroni, which is a pasta noodle. We agree there.
Fine.
Okay.
But it's
to ask a question they asked on the podcast. At what amount of cheese does it cease to be pasta? Because if I sprinkle a little Parmesan, it's pasta. But if I sprinkle a lot of Parmesan, does it become mac and cheese?
No, I think because the sauce is like a cheese sauce, that makes it macaroni and cheese and not pasta.
But there's pastas that have cheese sauces.
Yes, but it's different. I get it. If you want to live in also to me, a pasta is like a penne noodle or the
macaroni just out. Macaroni not a pasta noodle.
Yeah, no, I don't consider that pasta. If somebody says, "Oh, we're having pasta," don't serve me macaroni and cheese and don't serve me like a spaghetti. Right?
Wait, the spaghetti's not pasta?
Spaghetti.
It's pasta. That's the most quintessential pasta.
To me, it's spaghetti.
I like somebody say it's not Italian. Aaron, I think that's the answer, is that it's not Italian. It's pasta, but it's not Italian. Okay, the second thing is, Anthony, and this is for those that have been with us for a long time, there is a long history of atrocious food takes on this show that we have all at various points been guilty of, except for myself and Daniel Starkin, I would argue. But I said, which of these 2 takes do you find more offensive? I said apple pie is the greatest food. Apple pie, warm apple pie and ice cream, Dutch apple pie and ice cream is the best food. That's my take. Anthony's take is that apple pie stinks. Which of those two do you find more offensive? Because I think his apple pie stinks is like the worst food opinion that's ever been uttered on this show.
But you're saying apple pie is the best?
I think warm apple pie and ice cream is the pinnacle of food. And I know people in the chat saying the food talk, look, we're trying to cleanse the palate here, all right? We need something to, and you're welcome. This is the last thing we're going to do. Which of those food takes do you find worse?
Probably Anthony's, just because I think from the standpoint of, I think that's not a common opinion shared.
Yeah.
Like, I think yours, you're more like yours is more like you're more likely to find people agreeing with you. I don't care for, I don't like apple pie. I don't think it's the worst thing. I don't think it's about, like, I think all pies are just
average.
Yeah.
Overrated.
Yeah.
I don't like cake. So that's my controversial food.
I'm the other way. Like, I'd rather have cake.
It's crazy. Okay. Is pasta salad pasta?
No. To me, pasta, again, and this could be very individual based, but to me, pasta is like the penne noodle or a bow tie or rigatoni. I think can
I love that. I love that spaghetti doesn't count as pasta. I think you're going down in history on that.
Spaghetti is like, it's a spaghetti to me. I get what people are saying. It's a pasta noodle, like fine, but like if like you don't say we're having pasta, like you tell like, oh, we're getting spaghetti.
I think that's fair. If you just said, hey, we're having pasta, there would be confusing. I just think spaghetti is like literally the most like the most quintessential definition of pasta, I feel like.
Spaghetti, it's its own thing to me. It's a genre. It's its own field.
I love it. I love it. Last super chat here from John. These are the dog days of summer. Baseball is fun this time of year. It's now a sprint to the finish. The Dodgers will win 115 games down, 47 games to go. Matt, let's hope John is right. John, please, I'm the optimist. You apparently are an optimist, which I appreciate. Let us hope, Matt, that John is right and that baseball is going to be fun over the next 47 games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think again, we've seen prior seasons where the Dodgers are running away with the NL West, and fans say, like, they shouldn't have done that. They should have played competitive games. Well, it looks like it's trending in that direction now. So let's see what ends up happening.
Hey, everybody. As always, we appreciate you joining us. That's going to do it for tonight here on Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. As always, check out DodgerBlue.com for post-game coverage, all sorts of updated news stories, injury updates, all that sort of thing. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. We saw a couple super chats from new folks. Please subscribe, ring the notification bell. As I mentioned, live shows just about every night on this channel. Scott and Blake will be on here tomorrow night. No game, so doing a little bit of a mailbag, so stay tuned for information on that as well. That is Matthew Moreno. I am Jeff Spiegel. Folks, enjoy the rest of your day. As always, go Dodgers.